Hi, everybody. My name is Joe Hawkins. I'm Director of Parent and Family Programs. We're excited that you've taken the time today out of your schedule to hear about the Rising second year room selection process. Before I let our speakers introduce themselves, I want to talk you through a little bit of logistics. To start, all of this is being recorded, so at the end, so later, if you want to come back and circle back to it, it'll take us about a week to pull the download, clean it up a little bit, and get it uploaded to YouTube and into the Miami Family Connection. But you'll be able to find this recording at the YouTube channel, Miami University Parents and Family Programs YouTube channel, and also in the Miami Family Connection. It'll be there for you. So you can come back and watch it as you need or share it with your students if you'd like. We will take some questions. We won't have a lot of time for questions today. Everybody's kind of got a busy schedule. We're coming into finals week. It's a busy moment. But we will take some questions. So as we get closer to the end, there's a Q&A tool down here. You can click that. It'll bring up a spot where you can put in your question. I'm going to encourage you folks, though, to hold those questions. Don't put them in until we get to the end. A lot of times we'll get flooded with questions early that our speakers are going to get to a little later. So if you have a question that pops into your mind, write it down. Wait to see if we answer the question. And if we don't, pop it in there, and I'll try to pull through those from there. And also, while we're talking, there is also down here at the bottom of your screen a show captions button that will um, let you read along with us, just in case you aren't able to listen along through the whole time, or you need to multitask. You can that might help you out. So with that, I will disappear and I will turn it over to our guests. Thank you, folks, for being here.
Hi, thanks, Joe. Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah Meany. I'm the Associate Director for Residential Academic Initiatives, and I work in the Office of Residence Life.
Right. And hi, everybody. I'm Brian Woodruff, and I'm the Director of Housing and Operational Services here in the Campus Services Center. And so we're excited to be here with you all today. Thanks for joining us. We're going to go over some of the key points here and things to know about room selection for rising second year students. So this webinar today, we're going to go over a little bit about the residency requirement. We'll talk about some of the many opportunities that your students will have for living on campus next year. That'll include student-created communities, sorority corridors, scholar leaders, general room selection, as well as RA process. And then we'll have a slide at the end. You'll see some links going through along the way. Don't worry about writing those down necessarily along the way. We'll have a screen at the end that'll have all those for you. So we'll jump right in here about a reminder about the 2-year requirement. At Miami, we do highly value the on-campus residential experience. And so all first year and second year students are required to live on campus unless they meet one of the following criteria. That would be if they're over 21 by the first day of class, if they've attended college full-time for at least 2 years after graduating high school, or if they'll be commuting from home. So those are some of the 3 basic exemptions. So other than that, students are living on campus with us. Any student who would be seeking an exemption to the requirement does need to request those through the application form before the school year starts. So typically those would be, that form's not available yet. Any exemptions would be coming through typically in early spring before the process begins. The other exemption I do want to make note of here, which you see on the screen, is fraternity exemptions. And so rising second year men who are members of approved fraternities are able to live in their off-campus fraternity house if they're approved. So those exemptions are coordinated by the Cliff Alexander Office of Fraternity and Sorority Life and Leadership. And so students would apply through that office, look at information all about that. Their house has to be approved for it, and then the individual members also would apply. So if your student may be joining a fraternity or in this situation, please encourage them to connect with the Cliff Alexander office and make sure they completely understand that process, because there are important deadlines with that as well. So just an important reminder there too about always encouraging your students to be checking their emails, because in that case, for example, the Cliff Alexander office may be sending important details and processes, and it's always going to go to your student's Miami email account. So always reminding them, be sure they're checking that regularly. I do want to make a note as well that if by chance your student is looking into being exempt for any of these reasons that I've mentioned, it is important that they don't sign a housing contract ahead of time, because once you sign a housing contract, you've foregone your ability to have an exemption. So just something to keep in mind, that if they're even considering changing to be a commuter or potentially going to be doing a fraternity exemption, they'll want to just sort of keep that in mind and not do any of the room selection processes that we're going to go into today, because once they would do that, they could no longer have an exemption. But we do guarantee housing for all of our first and second year students. So if your student's just not sure what their plans are, that's okay. Better to hold off. And then if they end up not being in a fraternity, for example, or not commuting from home and they're on campus, we will guarantee them housing and we'll be sure to get them placed. So not to worry there. The final thing I want to mention on here is we do have many second year students who choose to study abroad or maybe do an internship or student teaching, something that takes them out of Oxford for an entire semester. And so in that case, we have a process that's called not returning to housing. And if your student were potentially going to be in this situation, they'll go through room selection, pick their space for the whole year. But then as we get later into the spring semester, before the semester ends, they would fill out what we call a not returning to housing form that are available on our website. And that lets us know, hey, I'm going to be studying abroad for fall 24. So we would then cancel their housing just for that semester and then get them reassigned back into housing when they return for the spring. That would be true if they were student teaching outside the area, if they were doing an internship, those sorts of things. And it would be true for fall semester or spring semester, if that were the case. So if they were planning to be here in the fall, but then study abroad in the spring, for example, then right about the time we're in now, about November, December, a year from now, they would fill out that form as well. So we get a lot of questions about that. So I wanted to be sure that everyone knows that that is an opportunity if your student's planning to do one of those programs. All right, I'll turn it over to Sarah, who will talk about some of the opportunities we have here.
Yeah, so there are a lot of different opportunities for rising sophomores to participate in. One of those is called student created communities. So right now, your students live in a living learning community or affinity community. So it's something that they were like, oh yeah, I'm feeling really connected to this topic. Maybe it's outdoor pursuits. Maybe they just love doing outdoor things. For our rising students, a way that they can kind of keep the good times going with their friends that they made is to create a community. So student created communities are formed around really anything that the students can dream up. Pretty much the only requirement is that we have between 8 and 30 students who are looking to room together around a central theme. So we do provide additional support for student created communities. We have a staff member who knows that they're there. They meet once a month. We have a faculty staff advisor who's also in with the group. So they can be around academic topics, career, it can just be interests. You can see last year we had things around sustainability, school spirit. There was a farmer's market one. We had like a blockchain, really anything that the students can imagine. They pretty much just have to find at least 8 other students to come together. They have some kind of faculty or staff connection with that, and then that's how they form a community. We also have additional funding for student created communities. So we give extra money in the fall and spring semester for them to do programs with. So not only do they have kind of access to their like RA funds to do programming, but they specifically, those communities have additional funds for them to do their own specialized programming, which is really cool. So the application is open. It opened on November 1st. It is available on our community options page. Kind of that's the big landing page for anything Residence Life. So applications are due not until February 7th. So if you're like, this is amazing, I can't wait to tell my student, that is fine. They have a lot of time to work on the application. And then after applications close, we'll be reviewing those. On February 17th, we'll send out notifications that yes, you've been approved as a community, and here is the building that we are placing you in. And then the kind of the last piece students do is that they finalize who are those people who are going to be in the community with us, right? So that's that 8 to 10 or 8 to 30 students, and that's the final roster. on March 5th. And then we do a final leadership training in April for basically the coordinators of the community. So it's a pretty cool process. I have not really heard of this at other places around the country. So it is unique to Miami, but it's just a neat option for our students.
Thanks, Sarah. So another opportunity we'll have is the sorority corridor housing. So rising second year students who will be sorority members will live in residence hall corridors with their chapter. It's a great opportunity that we have each year that students really enjoy. This process happens mid-spring. It's coordinated together with the Cliff Alexander Office for Fraternity and Sorority Life. Corridors are designated within 5 halls. Those are Hamilton, Minnick, Scott, Richard, and McCracken. And then each chapter is located within the halls determined by sorority leadership. So they'll kind of pick where their corridors are and be grouped together there within those buildings. Sorry, I jumped ahead too quick there. The process will begin in late March online. And students who are participating in this will get information from the Cliff Alexander Office of Sorority Life. They'll be sending that information out. So you'll be able to get that. Another one here will be the Scholar Leader housing. So this is another specialized process for students who are part of the Scholar Leader program. It's their opportunities to select spaces in Elliott and Stoddard halls. It's a great program, really unique, and those are really small halls. They're about 35 to 40 students each in those 2 buildings right in the center of campus. So it's a great program. This will occur in early April, the selection process. More information about this, the Scholar Leader program and applications are available on the Wilkes Institute for Leadership and Service website. You see the link here. Again, we'll have all those links all grouped together at the end of this for you. But if your student is interested in applying for that, that is kind of how that gets handled there. And so with all of these things we've covered so far with the student created, with the Scholar Leader, with the sorority, they're all going to have a similar, different timeline, but same process of how students will go through and select their rooms and do that process. And so the first step is, first of all, it's all done online, all through the housing website. This is the same place that your student would have gone to do their initial housing application and contract, pick their meal plan when they confirmed their housing back in the summer, getting ready for the school year. And so they'll get all kinds of information from us, emails. We'll communicate with your students. But the general idea is they'll go online. They will begin a housing application. They will be notified typically some time before the process begins that they can log in and go ahead and create that application and also create a roommate group if they have one. And so this is optional, but if your student does know, I want to be with this particular roommate, they'll be able to log in, get that group set up, so that way when they pick the room, they can go in and actually assign each other to the room space at the same time. And so then the next step is they'll get a lottery time slot email from us that'll let them know on their room selection day when they'll actually get to go in and pick the room. So all 3 of these processes will have a set timeline that'll all be posted to our website. The lottery time slot will alert them, okay, on the actual day, this is what time of the day I get to go in. The system opens up for me. I can go in and actually choose my room. And then at that point, they'll be able to log in, select a room from available rooms, complete the housing application, and get everything finalized there right at that point. So with these processes, it's set up so that, for example, the student created communities will identify a space for them. They'll pick from those spaces. Sorority corridors will pick from their chapter spaces and so on. So it's a real convenient, easy process. It is very important to remember, though, that for all of these processes, if your student would be participating in them, that they do need to go through all the steps that are generally outlined here, and we will outline in more detail in emails to them and on our website. But occasionally we do hear from students who might say that maybe they talked to the roommate and they planned who they'd live with, and maybe they even talked to their sorority president or their sorority leader, and had explained where they wanted to live and thought that that got things taken care of. But that doesn't. It is important. They must follow the directions from our office and go through all of the online steps to select and secure their room space. That way they do get the room that they would like. Because with none of these processes have an auto assign with them. We have a designated set of rooms that they'll pick from, but the students do need to go in and select those spaces themselves. So just want to reiterate that a little bit here, because sometimes that's a confusion that we hear from students, that they might think that they talked to a coordinator of their program and got things set up, but they do need to go through the process. Okay, so those are some of the more specialized processes that we have. But for the current students who did not go through one of those is the general online room selection process. And this is going to be the largest portion of students, of our second year students are going to go through this online process. And so as you see, it will begin in mid-April. I'll have some more details on the next frame. But this is, again, going to be the largest group of students will be doing this. And so it's online as well. It does follow a similar process of steps as those specialized processes did, but it'll be a little bit later. And this is, again, kind of for those who aren't doing sorority, aren't doing any of the exemptions, aren't doing student graded, scholar leader. This will be where most of your students will probably end up going through the process. And so the process does begin in early April, and that is when we'll begin communicating with any student who doesn't have a room assignment yet and letting them know the process is beginning. We're excited for you to do this. They'll be able to have some time before the selection process to create a roommate group if they'd like to. Again, this is optional, and by no means do all second year students pick a roommate ahead of time. Many of them just are going individual and just pick a space with a random roommate, and that's very fine too. But if your student does have a specific roommate, it's important that they get that set up here in early April with that application process so that they can get grouped together. And that just makes things work so much more smoothly for them as they go through the process. So they have some time to do that, about a week and a half typically to get that part set up. And then mid-April, we'll notify them of what their time slot will be for the room selection day. And again, if they've got that roommate group set up, typically roommate groups will get the same time slot. Both members get the same time generated by our system randomly. And so they'll both be able to go in at the same time. But if one of them is unavailable at that time, if they're set up as a group, then whoever does go in can assign both to the room, which is super handy. And then the actual selection process is going to be late April. The exact dates are still being finalized, and we'll have those posted and shared soon. But it will be late April, and this does occur over 5 days. So it's a Monday through Friday during business hours. We only do it during the day when office is open in case there's any questions or any issues that anyone has. Typically goes really, really smoothly, but we do like to make sure that we're available to help if needed. But that is when they'll go in at some point, Monday through Friday of that selection week, based on the time slot that they got on their email lottery, and they'll pick their rooms. One thing I do like to always share is that depending upon the lottery time slot that your student would receive, that a number of students may not see any available rooms to pick when they enter the process. If this happens to your student, we ask that they would just proceed with their housing contract, with their application, and they'll select assignment pending rather than an actual room at that initial step. So we do anticipate full occupancy this fall. And so because of that, there are times during the room selection process where all of the available spaces are currently taken. But what we do know also is that over the spring and summer months, many students who go through the room selection process actually are not returning to housing for the fall. They may be transferring or withdrawing. And so we sort of get a lot of students taking up spaces initially who are maybe not going to be here that happens every year. And we also hold some spaces back as well, just to make sure that we can get everything sorted out and get the puzzle working just right for students. So if they do have that assignment pending, again, depending on their lottery time slot, they'll still be able to go in and pick their roommate groups, get that set up. Any housing preferences, they'll be able to enter those. And then our staff works to get those students assigned over the late spring and early summer months based on their preferences as best we can. This happens every year, and every year we are able to get all of our second year students assigned to housing, typically by midsummer at the latest. So if that were to happen to your student, no worries at all. It's very normal. But we do like to make you aware of that so that you do know, hey, this is not unusual. It's expected. And we will work real careful and do a lot of work to ensure that we have spaces for all of our students. So we look forward to it.
All right, so we do have one more opportunity for your rising sophomore students. Considering being a resident assistant is a really cool way to spend your second year on campus. So RAs are our student leaders. So they're residence life employees who live right on the floor. All of your students right now have an RA. And RAs are responsible for making connections with students, for building community. They do some duty rounds to make sure everybody's safe. They help with roommate conflicts. It's just like an excellent kind of leadership opportunity right in the residence halls. And again, the benefit is that because of our second year requirement, this is a great opportunity. Students are on campus with us anyways, and this is a really neat opportunity. So if your student kind of has that leadership desire or wants to serve others, this is a really neat position. Other benefits of the RA position is that it is usually a single room, and that we cover, do basically a significant employment stipend. So we cover the cost of room and then a considerable amount of their meal plan and then a little bit of a leadership stipend. So it's a pretty great job. I work with all of our RAs. There are 252 of them this fall. So we are always looking for applications, but it's a really neat opportunity for students who, for the most part, are going to be on campus with us anyway. So just a little bit about the timeline. Brian, if you could advance, there you go. So again, applications have opened. They will close on January 5th at 11:59 p.m. We do need to cut them off. There are quite a few applications already in, which is exciting, but applications must be complete, including a reference, in order to be considered for a position. So if we have an incomplete application, we won't be able to consider the student. And then on January 21st, we will start sending out interview invitations. So we will interview all of our candidates. That interview week happens February 10th through 14th. And then we spend a lot of time thinking through that. And then on March 17th, we send out our offer letters. And then March 24th is when those are due. So the nice part about the RA position, so we have a lot of students, I think, who do, they kind of go for the RA job. They might be looking at Scholar Leader. They might do student created. It's kind of all happening at the same time. So students have that information. Like they don't have to make a decision about one before knowing about another one. So we try to line up all the timelines. So, oh, I got into Scholar Leader and an RA offer. All right, what do I want to pick to do? So they should have a lot of that information before moving on. But that's just a little bit as a shameless plug for the RA position. Again, it's a really cool job on campus if students are looking to serve their peers in a different way.
Yeah, very important. Very important. All right, so as that's a lot, but also that's the info. That is all of that goes together to bring all of our second year students on campus this is your students for their second year. So as promised, this page here, if you want to, again, this is being recorded, but if you wanted to screenshot this or write these down, this is the page with all of the links that we've discussed. So any general housing or process questions, application for the housing, roommate groups, those sorts of questions. Much of that is going to be on our website there on the housing website, as you see that link there on the first bullet, as well as our contact information for the Campus Services Center, which you can always call us or email us. We try to keep a whole lot of information on the web, but also, we are here to answer other more detailed questions that you might have If you just can't quite find it online, that is why we're here. If you have any questions about RA process, the student created, any of the communities related to that, the Res Life website is going to be a great place to start. Lots of details there and contact information as well. The sorority and fraternity questions, that would be any fraternity exemptions. The sorority housing corridors are going to be there on the FSLL, which is Fraternity and Sorority Life and Leadership website. You want to check that out. Again, important processes with all of that. If your students are thinking about that, they'll want to connect with them. And then Scholar Leader Program, if that's something that your student is interested in applying for and being part of, the Wilkes website there is going to be the place with information about that. And so with that, I think we do have time for a few questions here. And so, Joe, if you've got any for us, we'll be happy to do that.
There's a floating number of questions asking about the interactions. Let's start with the bigger question. Probably the most commonly asked question is the Honors College housing selection process. There's some concern amongst the populace that there are not enough room for rising second years to fit in the Honors College next year, and how that works for that group. Is that like the fraternity sorority? I know they coordinate it a little bit themselves. Can you speak a little bit about what honors students will need to do?
Yes. Well, there isn't a second year honors housing, so that's not a process.
None at all.
In some years past, and in fact, it might have still been on the front slide of this. We thought we got that taken out. In some years past, there had been, but the honors program has been growing, which is great. That's what we're doing intentionally with first year students. And so first year students are required to live in the honors college, and so as a result of that, we just have a very limited space. We just don't have the beds to really allow very many second year students. However, the honors college will be communicating, if they haven't already. They'll be sending communications to all of the current first year honor students, so folks who have students here, about there will be a wait list opportunity to potentially get on a list, and if space is available. So basically, after we know exactly what our first year class looks like and how many first year students we have to get assigned to the honors college, if we still have some space left, we would make that available through a wait list to rising second year students. And so that's all information that the Honors College will be sending out by email. So if your students are in the Honors College, they can be on the lookout for that. They may have already received some communication about that.
Very cool. Thank you. There's also some questions sort of about the interaction of student-created LLCs and things like sorority recruitment, fraternity exemptions, RA selection, like some of those spaces. Can you talk about if they present a student-created community and are accepted and have that? Can they be an RA in that group? How does that interplay with the expectations from sorority of where they would want to where they could or couldn't live? To the answer that you know that.
Yeah, so it's complicated, right? Because our students are just such high achievers, right? Our students are great, and they want to do it all, but they can only live in one place, and they can only be an RA, right? Like, so there's. I think the hard part might be if you're going to do sorority, that's pretty much the sorority process. Like, you would be saying, yes, I want to do sorority, and then you're going to go through that full process. That wouldn't really overlap with student created. So I'll just remove sorority from that. I think the overlap that we see a lot are the student created, scholar leader, and the RA positions. Those students are like, I'm excited, I want to start a community, but I'm also going to go for an RA position. What I would say is, if you have students who are looking to do both, it's just to have a backup leader for the student created community. So it's okay if you start the process and then you're going down the road, and then you realize, oh wait, I was the leader of the student created community, but now I also got an RA position. And it's just making sure that we're communicating that, and we get you into the right place, and that the community doesn't dissolve without you. So it's just having a backup plan. So I would say, if you're doing a student created, anybody who is going through the RA process, you should just kind of know who those people are, in case people are selected out, or how that works with your group. So But usually we see people kind of they go for at least maybe two, 1 to 3 of those things at the same time. So it's just about communicating the plans with the other people you're trying to pull into the group.
Thank you. Um, there's a lot of questions about sorority, fraternity recruitment, and the timeline of this. Just for all of those of you who are interested, there will be some pre-recorded webinars about the fraternity and sorority recruitment process and all of the 3 different councils that they can participate in. Those will be coming out probably also next week into the Parent and Family Programs YouTube channel and available in the Miami Family Connection for you to take a look at and review to give you some more of this insight. But they are that process. Correct me if I'm wrong. Right, that the sorority selection process is over before the lottery begins. Right, like they know their sororities, and they will have that information before we start giving them lottery numbers. And so
Yeah,
as they are
yeah.
as they are accepted into sororities, or that as they pass through bid day, or they're joining their fraternities and they're getting those bids through the fraternities, those fraternities will start, and sororities will start communicating with them before the students they may have formed their roommate groups and have done some of that pre-planning already, but they won't be locked into anything yet because they will not have done the lottery process. And so our whole system sort of accommodates that selection process and coordination so that the lottery comes after that.
Yeah, yeah. So, and just to firm that up, we'll get the information from the Fraternity and Sorority Life Office. They'll notify us, here are the women who will be in the sorority process, for example. So these are the second-year women, and this is their chapter, and they are, they've gone through the whole process to become members, and they're going to do that, and they're going to live in the corridors. And then we find out who they are, and then we update their accounts accordingly so that we've got them marked, oh, you're Delta Gamma, you're Phi Mu, whatever it might be, marked with their appropriate chapter, and then they get to pick spaces from that are also marked for their chapter.
Okay.
And then on the fraternity exemptions, those also are provided to us, so we don't, there's nothing a student would need to do in that case for the fraternity exemption through Campus Services Center. That will all be coordinated through the fraternity office, and then they notify us of the approvals for that.
Very cool. Thank you, Brian.
Mm-hmm.
The last question I think we'll make time for, I'll try to, in presenting, I'll try to hang around here and try to answer some of these questions as we can. I'll try to type some answers to folks. So if you've got a lingering question out there you're really curious about, again, these websites here are all available and very powerful and utilized. You can also reach out you can call Parent and Family Programs at 513-529-3436, and we can try to help answer your questions, or you can reach out to the Campus Services Center at 513-529-5000.
Yep, that's it.
And they can help answer some of those more, or Res Life at 513-529-4000. And they can help answer some of those more detailed questions. But the last question is just about inventory, what's available to second year students. So we have primarily traditional residence halls, rooms with some triples and some quads still floating out there available to rising second year students, and then a small number of apartments that are available there. 4 bedrooms, each bedroom a single off of that shares. Each 2 bedrooms shares a bathroom and then a common area and kitchen. Do we anticipate a lot of those being available? I know the whole building holds pretty small, and that is also something that rising 3rd and 4th year students will sometimes select.
Yeah. So yeah, our residence halls. I know sometimes we do get the question of exactly which halls will be available, and we that's kind of a moving target a little bit based on lots of puzzle pieces. So we don't really have the answer for that, but there will be a variety of halls on campus with and if y'all are looking at our room types and things like that, we'll have some traditional halls, which is in our non-renovated buildings. We'll have some in our standard halls, which are the new or renovated construction in a variety of halls. There'll be some triples and quads, not a lot, but a very small number of singles, because we do need to hold most of the singles for disability and medical accommodations. But we will have those. There is a single wait list that will become available after the room selection process, and that'll be listed on our website as well, the date of that. That's typically the Monday after room selection is done. And then, Joe, to your point, Heritage Commons is our on-campus apartments, And we have about 430 beds there altogether. Some of those will be taken up by rising juniors and seniors who are picking rooms, but the majority of those will be available for the second year room selection process. So there'll be a good number of beds there. Again, it's not a huge number to begin with. There's 6 buildings and about 430 beds altogether, all in 4-bedroom. Well, actually, it's mostly 4-bedroom. If you divided that out, you realize it doesn't quite divide out because we do have one special medical apartment. But primarily 4-bedroom apartments, 2 bathrooms that are shared with the 4 private bedrooms, kitchen, fully equipped kitchen, no dishes and pots and pans. We don't provide that, but equipped with all the appliances, stove, dishwasher, and so on, refrigerator, and then a living room space with furniture. We don't provide TVs, not in the apartments, but those are great. Students really like those apartments as well. So meal plans are optional there because there's the full kitchen in the apartments. So, but yeah, there'll be a good number of those available as well. Yeah, I think I hit all the areas. Great.
Yeah. Okay, so Brian and Sarah, thank you for taking so much time today and speaking with us. We have had so many questions. People are so curious and so interested. Again, I want to coach folks, go to these websites, ask, look for these answers. Feel free to reach out to Parent Family Programs. You can email us at parents@miamioh.edu, reslife@miamioh.edu, or Campus Services Center at miamioh.edu. Is that correct, Brian?
Yeah, it is. Yep. I
Perfect.
didn't link it on here. Just that you'll find all that there on that housing website. We have a variety of ways you can find us, and we are definitely, Joe, to your point, we're definitely happy to answer questions. If we don't know the answer, we'll help get you in touch with who might. So
very good. Very
yeah.
good. Great. And with that, thank you everybody. Thank you all. I hope this is useful and valuable. We'll look forward to seeing you soon. All right. Bye.
Thanks.